Maharaj, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, we sincerely welcome you to Sri Radha Gopinath Mandir on the most auspicious occasion of Sri Gaur Purnima, the blessed appearance day of Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I'd like to first welcome two distinguished guests who have unexpectedly appeared from Sri Vrindavan Dham, two of the principal disciples of Sri Ramesh Babaji Maharaj from Man Mandir in Barsana, and very old and dear friends of all of our devotees. They have brought Sri Braj Bhumi with them through their kind blessings. Let us very sincerely welcome Panditji Maharaj and Narasingha Babaji Maharaj to Sri Radha Gopinath. In just a couple hours, our very dear and generous-hearted godbrother Shyamsundar Prabhu will be departing for the United States of America. We have requested him to speak on Srila Prabhupada, who so much embodied the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Namane. Radhanath has asked me to speak something on Srila Prabhupada, my realizations of Srila Prabhupada as the embodiment or the reflection, the pure via media of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy. And from this long distance now of time, it's quite easy to see all of these things, just how merciful Srila Prabhupada was to all of us. The years have given us that perspective, that distance, so now we can judge and see what really happened, the incredible thing that happened. But if you go back in time, when we were all there with Srila Prabhupada, this is actually 39 years ago today that I had celebrated my first Gaur Purnima with Srila Prabhupada. That's nearly 40 years ago. So, and I remember I've tried to project myself back, my mind back in those days, what it was like and how we saw Srila Prabhupada and what kinds of interactions we had, how they were. And some of my godbrothers last night were mentioning how Srila Prabhupada came into a situation of jagais and madais, worse than jagais and madais. This was exactly the case. This neighborhood of tens of thousands of young people were the most fallen souls, I think, that have ever collected in one place. There was the spirit of the time was to enjoy your senses to the maximum. Whatever kinds of thrills and sensations you could subject your senses to, those were desirable. Talk about the four regulative principles. There was no such thing. We were all very heavy meat eaters. I mean, breakfast was always pork, bacon, eggs, and beef steaks, Sorry, I'm just trying to give a little contrast here. Okay, we'll skip over that part. Suffice it to say that we were very fallen souls. I don't think Jagai and Madai came close. And there were like 20 of us, 20 youth, I would say. Except for Jayananda, he was a little bit older. I have to check my notes here. And like they were saying last night, you know, Lord Chaitanya appeared, Srila Prabhupada appeared among us, and just like Lord Chaitanya, just seeing him transformed us. He didn't have to say anything or try to reason with us in any way. We just saw him, and we were transformed. Just like Lord Chaitanya, you read in Charitamrita, Chaitanya Charitamrita, that how wherever Lord Chaitanya went, people were transformed immediately without any reason. This was Srila Prabhupada's effect on those 20 or 30 souls that gathered in those days. The neighborhoods were made up of tribal groups. People with similar interests would gather and form a tribe of one sort or another. There were the mountain people and the motorcycle people, and you name it. The different types of groups were associated there. So we were the Krishna people. Our little tribe isolated itself out and became a little group, just like Chaitanya Charitamrita, a group of devotees focused around this incredible personality. We had no qualifications, absolutely none. You were saying last night that Prabhupada said that he made us qualified. I don't know how he did it, but he did it. He made us qualified to participate with him. He touched us in a way. We all had a preconception, sort of a preconception of what a spiritual master should be. We'd all been reading books about yoga and this and that. Our idea was that a spiritual master just touches you, or he glances at you, and you're transformed. So when Prabhupada did that with us, it was a natural. Oh, we just saw Prabhupada and we were transformed. There wasn't any long period of development for this to happen. It happened immediately. You can ask all the God brothers who were there, God sisters at the time. So Prabhupada made the utterly fantastic into the utterly real. He didn't have the props and things to show us. He had a simple set of books of Bhagavatams. And on the cover of the I don't know if anyone's ever seen the cover of the old Srimad Bhagavatam, the original Srimad Bhagavatam that Prabhupada had, but it's covered with pictures of all the heavenly planets and the different lokas that make up the spiritual sky, and Radha and Krishna sitting in a lotus, and they're in their own planet. And Prabhupada explained to us that this is what the universe actually looks like. This is the spiritual universe that we can't see. And we immediately accepted it. Prabhupada said, this is what the spiritual sky looks like. Oh, okay, great. Well, that's wonderful. We didn't need logic and explanations. And by his absolute authority, Srila Prabhupada would sit on his Vyasasan there in San Francisco and expound this philosophy from a situation of absolute authority. He would quote Sanskrit and back up everything he said by this in this incredible language that we knew came from the ancients. So that gave it substance. his logic. He was the consummate logician. He would be challenged every night by people sitting in the audience very strongly. They would say things like, how do you know that God exists? How do you know that God is a person? Those kinds of things. And Prabhupada would logically, using examples from everyday life, show how this must be. So that impressed us also. And by his example, he attracted and gave us Lord Chaitanya's mercy. We knew that he suffered terribly to come and bring us this knowledge. And yet he was never for a moment thinking in a small way about anything. Everything was huge in his estimation. This was his example. He would type letters to the president. He would say things like, yes, you are only 20 people now, but very soon we will cover the world with Krishna consciousness. So we accepted it. We didn't challenge this in Srila Prabhupada because we could see that he embodied the truth, that this was the truth. His obvious love for all of us individually was so apparent and so overwhelming. We had never experienced such love from another individual. Even our own parents never gave us this love. Not like this, in this intensity. He said, now I am your spiritual master, and I take all responsibility for you. So, I mean, what more security, what more happiness could there be in a young person's life? How could anything go wrong? With Srila Prabhupada, everything was always right. And of course, he didn't say much about Lord Chaitanya in the beginning. In fact, we all came from more or less a monotheistic background, thinking that God is one. So he only talked about Krishna. Krishna. We tried to imagine Krishna. We didn't have pictures. There was no books to describe him, no Krishna book, we didn't know about his leelas in Vrindavan or anything like that. He just said that this is God, and he's a personality, and this is how he dresses, these are the ornaments he wears, these are the kinds of activities he does. And as he described that, all of our barriers broke down. We said, well, sure, well, yeah, why shouldn't God be beautiful? I mean, why couldn't he be bluish? It's unique color. Oh, wonderful. He should be ornamented with all the precious stones, yes. And Prabhupada described Bhagavan as the personality with those 6 opulences in full, and that was easy to understand. Then we began to forge an idea of Krishna. You may have looked back and seen the old photographs in San Francisco. Our first idea of Krishna was this, the cowherd boy, Kartamani Krishna. That was our first figure. And Gopal Krishna, and little baby Krishna, and Krishna playing the flute by himself. This first Prabhupada got us used to this idea. Then he brought in Radharani. Whoa, this was hard to understand. If Krishna is the absolute creator of everything, why did he create this woman? So then Prabhupada began to explain. It took a long time for this to sink in. What is Radharani? What is Radharani? So once these 2 ideas began to become part of our lives, then Prabhupada started talking about Lord Chaitanya. And if you looking back now, those days with Prabhupada when we started learning about Lord Chaitanya, if you read the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it was the same mood, the same kind of devotional pals, devotional friendships were generated among us, all strangers 3 months before. We began to feel a kinship with this strong, incredible personality in our midst and exchange things amongst ourselves and with Srila Prabhupada that just separated us from the rest of the world, from the other tribes. All the things that in the Chaitanya Charitamrita you read about, like when Lord Chaitanya picked all the mangoes to feed his devotees. Well, Prabhupada did stuff like that for us too. He would cook a big feast and feed us. He was our general, in a way, in our little army. He was so strong. We were surrounded by a lot of chaos and a lot of adversity, I guess you could say. Next door were the Hells Angels, was their headquarters. Right next door, through the wall this thick, was the Hells Angels headquarters. And they caused some problems. Almost every day something would upset the kirtan or upset the Prabhupada's lecture, or the temple affairs, some strong incursion into our space. Prabhupada would jump up and, just like a lion, defend us in so many ways. He would verbally defend us. He made it well known that nobody should even try to attack him. He would deal with that if they even dared. He was so strong. And he danced with us, just like Lord Chaitanya danced with his associates. The first night that I ever saw Srila Prabhupada was at that Mantra Rock Festival in San Francisco at the Avalon Ballroom. He walked out on the stage well after midnight in this darkened theater, heavy rock and roll music, and they were all playing the Maha Mantra, all these rock and roll bands. And Prabhupada started dancing like this all over the stage. We couldn't believe it. He just transformed the whole, thousands of young people all started dancing in the same way. Sometimes if he was leading kirtan, we would follow our verse and then it became his time to lead again, and we would look, it would be silent. We would look up and Prabhupada would just be lost, be gone, tears coming on from his eyes. So we saw in Srila Prabhupada that ecstasy is possible. Ecstasy is possible. Pure ecstasy is possible without any supplementary influence, just the holy name. That the ecstasy that Srila Prabhupada was exhibiting was not overt, but very subtle. And we wanted to learn that subtle, how to reach that ecstasy. We could see that Prabhupada was totally in another world of happiness, satisfaction. And he always told us every day, he says, you can do this too. You can be the same way. Your consciousness can be like mine. So gradually Prabhupada began to tell us about this golden, beautiful avatar, this person who appeared in Bengal in 1486, who left in 1534 at the age of 48. So this gave Lord Chaitanya a kind of historical basis, which unlocked a lot of doubts or thoughts in our heads. A lot of barriers were removed by suddenly coming to grips with a historical personality who lives in the modern times. I mean, this is when Shakespeare was writing his plays. This is when Goa was being opened up by the Portuguese and a window to the west was being forged into India. This is historical. So we could relate. And then the idea of parampara became a lot more real. That descending from Lord Chaitanya, you could name the teachers in our line coming right through Prabhupada, right to us. And so the great mystics and saints and the parampara from millions of years back in the past became accessible, and they became real to us, and we could see in this person sitting in our midst Lord Chaitanya's direct influence, not only his words and his directions, what we should be doing, but you could feel Lord Chaitanya's blessings and the blessings of all the saints in our line and their energy flowing through him. I remember the first Purnima festival. Purnima was not it was a new concept for us. We had no clue what is Purnima. Prabhupada appeared to us in January of 1967, and then in March, which was scarcely 3 months later, he announced one day that the next day that we will fast. That we will fast. Most people didn't even know what that word meant. No one had ever fasted. Oh, don't eat? We'll try. Okay, yeah, let's do it. And he had been working on some translation and writings of the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. He had a manuscript, partial manuscript. So he said, I will give this to you, and someone will read this all day long in the temple. And you will sit all day in the temple and fast and listen to this teachings of Lord Chaitanya. So that was our first experience. That was the first Purnima celebration in the West Coast of the United States, 1967. So along about mid-morning, maybe it was noontime, we got very, very restless. Everyone was pacing the floor, listening to this somebody reading, but then we'd have kirtan, and then that became a little old. So we decided, well, Prabhupada lives up the street. By then he had an apartment a block up the street on Willard Street. We'll go up and let's get the mridungas and the kartals and go up and serenade Prabhupada outside of his window. Okay, that gave us an excuse to leave. And so we went up there and we were all chanting out on the street and the sidewalk in front of Prabhupada's apartment. He lived up on the second floor. And Gurudas tells the story that Upendra, who was his servant at the time, came to the window and he went, and we thought that meant go away. So we all packed up our drums, kind of sad, and we started back down the hill. And Upendra came running out and he said, no, he said, come in, Prabhupada wants to see you. In India, this means come here. So we went up to Srila Prabhupada's room, and he was just beaming from ear to ear. And he said, today the Sankirtan movement has begun. And that was it. That was the first Sankirtan party in the public streets of America. From then on, daily, he especially assigned Tamal Krishna to lead this party down into the streets of San Francisco, Market Street, Embarcadero, other streets. It was very, very difficult for us to attack that particular challenge, to go out in public and chant Hare Krishna. But this was the day. And then we had our breakfast drink, and the girls mixed it. Prabhupada gave instructions to the girls how to mix this drink, but it was very sour. It was awful. So he came down himself to the temple and he mixed it. He called for lots of black pepper. I remember there was black pepper in it and other things. And so Prabhupada mixed the various things into the drink, and he served us. And then we had this huge feast that Prabhupada supervised. He was just like the ringmaster sitting in one corner of the temple telling everyone, the cooks coming in and out, how to do this, how to do that. And then he'd go back in the kitchen and stir the pots a little bit. And Prabhupada serving it just like Chaitanya Charitamrita. And jokes. We used to have these kind of food jokes with Srila Prabhupada that when I read the Chaitanya Charitamrita, they remind me so much of those those early days, we would joke to Prabhupada, Prabhupada, you shouldn't eat so much, you know, that's going to make you fat. He would say, but this is Krishna Prasad, I can eat all I like. Or, Prabhupada, eat more, you should eat more. No, I'm a sannyasi. Sannyasis are only supposed to eat small. Like that, we're always kidding back and forth with Srila Prabhupada, especially around prasadam. Janaki, Jamuna's sister, had a very, very intimate relationship with Srila Prabhupada that way. She could chastise him just like a small boy, and he would bow his head and ask for forgiveness. So from that day on, the Gaur Purnima of 1967, our destiny became clear. Our purpose as a movement became very clear. That today the Sankirtan movement will spread, and spread all over the world. That was our assignment. That became very clear. And throughout the years, as Sankirtan began to grow and move around the world in different cities, different countries, Srila Prabhupada was constantly getting reports back. Glorious things happened, but quite often he would get reports back of different obstacles that were confronting the Sankirtan parties in various places. Police resistance, neighbors, all kinds of problems. And every time he would get a report then that the devotees had overcome this obstacle, and he would give that example of the Kazi story. Yes, you see, no one can stop Sankirtan, just like the Kazi, and he would tell that story. So, and as Radhanath pointed out last night, that Srila Prabhupada, you can say that Srila Prabhupada saved, Lord Chaitanya saved the spreading of the Sankirtan movement for Srila Prabhupada. That is, in fact, that is a fact. But, and you may think it's a slow process, the spreading of the Sankirtan movement. It may seem like a very slow process. It's been 40 years now, but 40 years, if you put it in the context of, say, the spread of Christianity, or the Muslim religion, or Buddhism, that took hundreds of years to spread, the Sankirtan movement is spreading like wildfire. It's going very fast. I just got back from Mayapur, and I was so surprised because I hadn't been there for 2 years. 2 years ago, I knew about 1 out of every 10 people. 10 years before that, I knew 1 out of every 2 people. Then 2 years back, 1 out of every 5 or 10 people I knew. This year, I bet I didn't know 1 out of 100. The Sankirtan movement is spreading so fast. And was it Radhakrishna Das told me the other day, he just got back from Ujjain, and he said that 3,000 to 4,000 people are coming to class daily there. It's how marvelous how this is spreading. So in my short life, I've seen the first Sankirtan party, and then what is happening today. And it's only an insignificant amount of time. But Srila Prabhupada and Lord Chaitanya have saved for us the very most perfect, wonderful mercy of all. They didn't have any mercy compared to what we've got. We've got the chance to see and make happen the globalization of the holy name. We can see in our lifetimes, perhaps, or maybe not in my lifetime, maybe in your lifetime, or your children's lifetimes, the holy name emblazoned in the consciousness of the entire planet. It will happen. There's no doubt. So we've all received this special mercy through Srila Prabhupada to be the witnesses and the servants to these events, the globalization of the holy name. Lord Chaitanya's special mercy to the world is Sankirtan. Srila Prabhupada has assigned us this task. Prabhupada wasn't so concerned about big buildings. What is the use of this temple, that temple? He wants us to spread Krishna, the holy name. As a very small token, and you should all probably be happy to know that at least in where I'm going now, I'm going to America to try to formulate a traveling. Due to your inspiration last year, when we had that wonderful Cross Maidan festival, it was so successful and such a sweeping event that we want to try to create a traveling show like this, a big show, costing lots of money with lots of men and women working and lots of equipment, and travel all over the United States with this festival, and try to awaken some Krishna consciousness and do some Sankirtan on a very attractive basis. So I'm saying good night to all of you tonight. Yeah. But I'll probably be back in October, if Krishna wills. And words can't express my gratitude and my love and my wishes and my hopes for all of you. We've passed through another moment of time, but I think it's been well spent together for the glorification of Srila Prabhupada. I'll see you in my dreams. Haribol.
Thank Shyamsundar Prabhu for that very appropriate description of Srila Prabhupada's role as a perfect embodiment of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy. The holy name, form, qualities, pastimes of the Lord are self-manifesting. They are not produced of our own endeavor. That is the law. We may assume that our own efforts produce the holy name, but the holy name is non-different from the Lord and is self-manifesting. And yet, out of the Lord's inconceivable mercy, He condescends to appear on the mouths of even omnivorous persons who show the slightest inclination to chant. Whereas being unable to understand the inconceivable mercy of the Lord in appearing in the sound of His name, we take for granted that that holy name is produced by our own endeavors. Yet if we contemplate the matter, we find that there's no more inconceivable mercy of the Lord. Because in the worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there are so many strict rules and regulations regarding time, place, circumstance, purity, the utterance of the hymns. Whereas the holy name disregards all these considerations and appears whenever we have the slightest inclination to chant. And therefore we can understand that the mercy of the holy name is even more inconceivable than the mercy of the personality of Godhead. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has offered us such a precious touchstone, and yet, as he cried out in his own words, Etadrashi tava kripa bhagavan mamapi durdaiva midushan vihajani nanuragaha. Oh my Lord, you're so inconceivably merciful by appearing in the form of your holy name, yet I am so unfortunate. I have no attraction for it. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared just over 500 years ago to give the first indications that life's ultimate goal could be readily and easily obtainable. There are two occasions when the Lord appeared in his original form within this day of Rama. Sri Krishna Janmashtami in the Dwapara and Gaur Purnima in this Kaliyuga. And philosophically speaking, these 2 days are equal. But from the standpoint of the jivas and their potential achievement, the day that Krishna appeared in his golden form, richly endowed with the divine sentiments and mercy of Srimati Radharani, is greater because of the mercy inherent to that occasion. And Gaur Purnima is an essential supplement to Krishna's Braj Lila. Sri Krishna descended in this world to taste the sweet mellows of loving exchange and to propagate a path the path of Raganuga Bhakti. But Krishna did not really offer on a large scale the ability for the jivas to enter into his lila. And therefore, after disappearing from this world, Krishna began to reflect that for so long I have not offered the gift of pure devotional service to this world. And without pure devotional service, the existence of the world is simply useless. Therefore, I shall have to come again, bringing my associates with me. I will descend into this world to reveal pastimes which are amazing even in Vaikuntha. And still, simply obtaining a great treasure does not mean we will necessarily have the qualification to appreciate it. Just like a tiny ant, if you give him a little grain of sugar, he'll appreciate. But if you give to a tiny ant a large and precious gem, he will not be able to appreciate it. he simply does not have the qualification to understand what it is or what it's for. So having a similar lack of qualification, the world for so long did not understand or appreciate the event that transpired in 1486 when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared into this world. It was just like when you're in a darkened room and a bright light is turned on, you go temporarily blinded. But after some time, the vision of the world began to adjust, and people began to look at Lord Chaitanya's appearance and pastimes in this world on different levels. Some, seeing that the whole affair was very complex, didn't try very hard to figure it out. Whereas others considered that this was an especially wonderful event, because what kind of potency delivered Jagai and Madai? What kind of mercy cured the aggravated case of leprosy in Vasudeva? What kind of potency created that transformation in the great impersonalists, Prakasananda Saraswati and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya? What kind of influence affected all the fauna and flora in Jharkhand, making the trees and creepers bow down, reaching out to touch the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, crying tears of honey? What kind of attraction led Raghunath Das to forfeit a great fortune and a wife more beautiful than an angel to go to Vrindavan and live as a beggar? What inspired Rupa and Sanatan to give up their posts as prime minister and finance minister of the emperor, with all the prestige and power and wealth that accompanied that position? The potency revealed in the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are exceptional, even in terms of avatars. And yet, looking at it from a deeper perspective, what is the great significance in these pastimes when you consider that the whole universe was delivered in the time of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? This was the topic of one discussion with Haridas Thakur, when the Lord was inquiring from Haridas Thakur, feeling compassion for the conditioned souls, how can they be delivered? He was asking Haridas Thakur. And Haridas Thakur replied that, "My Lord, all the living entities in this world have already been delivered by the loud sound of your kirtan. Just as when Lord Ramachandra left this world, he took all the inhabitants of Ayodhya. And when Krishna appeared in this world, he delivered the entire universe." So Haridas Thakur told Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that simply by your appearance in this world and inaugurating this Harinam Sankirtan, all the living entities have been delivered. Those who have the tongue to chant Hare Krishna have been delivered, and those trees and other immovable living entities who cannot chant, when they hear the chanting, it is as if there is an echo. But that's not really an echo. That is the kirtan of the non-moving living entities. All these things, although inconceivable, are possible by your grace.